Hello guys, this is a quick little demonstration video for my latest update to the Amnesia video tool that I have revisited after 4 years because there were a couple issues and I've improved it quite a bit. I only recently picked it up, so I'm really only doing it now, so I figured I wanted to make another video because the process is a little different from the previous one. First off, this is basically if you want to play a video in Amnesia, then you can use this tool to generate all the needed files that you will need to do that, because the process will be looping through a set of different material files, entity files, to just teleport the frames in and out of the scene of where you want the animation to play. So it's kind of like a manual sort of way of displaying a GIF file. So GIF files are obviously the easiest to work with. You can work with actual like MP4 files, I would presume, although you can't use those in either of these two file types directly. You would have to process them to split each individual frame of the animation into separate images. So first off, I'm going to start off by showing a process how to do that in Photoshop, just because that's the way I know how to do it. I'm sure it's possible to do in other things. I'm going to close this so we can start over. I know I would assume it's possible to do in things like GIMP if you're looking for a free software, although I'm not 100% sure, but it should be possible. Anyways, so I have this little GIF animation here, which is a little gameplay of Mario Kart Double Dash that I did some time ago, and I want to put this into Amnesia. Basically, it's a little skillful play here of me throwing the bomb over the stage. Anyways, I'm going to separate this one into separate images, and then I'm going to put it into the game. So first off, I'm just going to start by opening it in Adobe Photoshop, which is what I prefer to use, but again, this particular process of separating the images isn't necessarily related, but I'm just going to quickly show how I do it, and maybe it helps you, but the end result is that you just need to get the separate images. Anyway, so now I've opened it in Photoshop. It has 200 layers. Each frame will be added as a separate layer, so it has 200 frames. First off, you just want to make sure you have the timeline viewed so that you can see the animation down here. Select the first frame, go to the end, shift click, and then select the end frame. Select everything. And then there's a little arrow next to here, which will basically tell you how long each frame is going to be visible before it skips to the next frame. Right now it's 0.07 seconds. That's what it is. So you can set that to different numbers right here, and if you want to export this in Photoshop, you want to set it to 1 second, so that the entire animation is set to 1 frame per second. Obviously for an animation that's not going to be very nice, but for exporting it, that's what you have to do. And then you go to export render video over here, which gives you this little window here. So first off, I'm going to name it just cart underscore, because I want to have the underscore before the numbers. And then I want to select the folder. I'm actually going to go to my desktop here and create a new folder and call it animation. So let me read that. Animation, I'm going to select that folder because obviously there's going to be a lot of files, so I don't want all these files on my desktop. Select Photoshop image sequence. I'm going to use JPEG, 3 digits because it has 200 frames, so as long as it doesn't exceed 1,000 frames, for instance, then 3 digits should be fine. Also, this is one thing that I forgot to do. You can't use this particular resolution right here. You're going to have to do some modification to the resolution. So basically the resolution needs to be a power of 2. So I'm going to change the resolution here, the canvas, to first off be the same here in the same height and width, so that it's a square resolution, and then I'm going to change the entire image scale to be 512 by 512 pixels. It scales it up a little bit, but it has to be a power 2, so 256, 512, 1024 are common for this. So I'm going to go back to render video here, reselect the animation folder, Photoshop image secrets, JPEG 3 digits, the proper resolution, and 1 frame per second is basically what you want to export it as. So make sure it's all frames and then hit render. So it's going to start rendering all these frames. You go over to the desktop here into the animation folder. You can see there's been a bunch of files here that are just shooting out all the separate frames and separate images. It looks like I forgot to put the name again, but I guess it's just rect now. Alright, rect and then all the numbers. Alright, fair enough, we'll go with that. So now we have that animation over there. Then we want to use the updated video tool here, which looks mostly the same as the previous one, but its functions a little different. First off, the file prefix over here. Oh, it looks like I wrote suffix, I meant prefix. This has to be basically the name of each image, excluding the number progression. So in my case, it's just rect. And then you have the numbers here. I use 3 digits, so that's why I want to use the XXX, because this one will always have 3 digits. So if you have, for example, image number 5, it will be 005 instead of 5. And then you have X plus, which is just starting from the bottom and going up normally. And then you have the file extension over here, number of frames 200, and then the X bar options. Normally you want to have at least the material and entity files. Those are needed for each frame, so there will be one material and one entity for each frame. The video placeholder files are also required. You will need at least one set of exported video placeholder files for the animation. You could use one set for, if you have multiple animations, you can use only one set of placeholder files for all of them, but you need at least to have one set to be able to use it, because they'll be referencing these as the model file, basically. And then the script file is optional, although recommended. Now, if you want only the required amount of script, you can hit the minimalized button over here, which will just strip everything and put it into one line. So you can just copy paste that one line into your script and then use it. Or if you want to have it a lot prettier and documented and easily editable, then you do not want to check that, so you can have the entire thing. I'm gonna start off with this, but yeah. So basically that is the settings for what you need. Just match what you basically exported. And I'm gonna put them back into this same directory. We're going to create 405 files in there, so let's go with that. So now this directory looks like this. There's a lot of files in here, most of which you don't really need to care about. They're called just, ent and mat and then JPEGs for each frame, 200 of them, and then you have the video placeholder files, and then there's also the script down here. So if you open the script, it looks like this. So it's just one very, very long line. You don't really need to care about what the script contains. You just need to copy paste it into your level script. So I'm going to close that off now and head on over to my custom story script file. So let me just start by removing that entire thing. Start pasting in that. You could paste it in anywhere. It just needs to be in your file at some place. So it could be at start, at the end, anywhere really. And like I had just now when I removed it, there was a comment before it. If you want, you can put a comment ahead, just maybe if you want to make it a bit more descriptive. So slash asterisk asterisk slash will make an inline block comment, so you can type something in between here like animation script. I don't know, it's up to you anyway. You don't need a comment. And then you want to have the void on start, obviously. So I'm gonna create that function there. And in here, there are a couple scripts included with this. You have 3 scripts. You have the preload animation script, which will load your animation into the game. And then you have the start and stop image animation here. So first off, you obviously need to preload it. So the script for preload animation is preload animation there. It has a couple of parameters. Actually, let me check so I don't forget. In this particular case, I guess it would be easier to use the documented code. So I'm going to actually export that. Just going to quickly export that over here. There you go. So here's the actual, this is the entire script without, with added comments and more spaced out like a normal script. So this is the entire, this is exact same script as that one line that I pasted in, except it's, you know, easier to read if you want to actually read about it. So it's a little easier to see. Let's see. This is the signature for the preload animation script. So it has the name of the script, or no, name of the animation, which is the same as the prefix you put into the app, and then the area in the level that you want to place it at, and then the amount of frames. So let's start by opening the level editor. Let's open that level.mat. And this is just a very small level that I have. I've already placed down some areas. So you will need one area, this area that I have called area preload. You don't need to call it area preload, but have an area. Preferably you want to place it like below the level or outside the walls or something like this, so that it's not visible, because this is where all the frames are going to be like positioned when they're not played in the animation. So it's going to be looking kind of weird if you actually see that when you're meant to see the animation. So put it somewhere you don't see it. In my case, I'm going to put it in here though, just for the demonstration purposes, so you can see what it looks like, but you don't want to have this anywhere. So I named it area preload. You can name it whatever, but this is the preload area basically. And then I have over here by the desk another area called area anim, which is where the animation is actually going to be played. Now you could rotate this area in any way you want, so the animation will still be played at that angle. So I'm going to rotate it slightly upwards, but we'll see how that looks, I guess. And then I've also added just a little box light, which is situated in the same place. Not needed, but it makes the animation a little brighter. So that's it. We have the area preload and the area anim, and those are the two areas that you're going to need in your level for this to work. So let's head back over to the script file. Let's see, here's my level IPH, yes. So let me put this actually over here. Move to the other view. There you go. So you can see them side by side, it's easier for me. So preload animation, 3 parameters. First off, the string parameter, which is the animation, in my case it's just rect. Second is the area that you want to preload it at, so area preload in my case. And then the amount of frames, 200. So it's as easy as that, really. And that will load all the frames. Basically, this has to be done at least once so that the animation can play. It's just optimization, basically, to make it run better. And then after that, you want to have start image animation. If you look at the signature for the start image animation script, has a couple more. Starts off with a string name, which is the same name, so rect. And then string area, area anim, which is where I want to actually play it. And then it has the area, the from area, which is where you preloaded it. So area preload, which is where everything is going to be teleported from. And then we have the frame amount. Let me just scroll back over here. Frame amount, FPS, and Boolean, whether it's going to loop. So frame amount, 200 again, same amount. FPS, I'm going to set it to 20 frames per second. 20 seems fine for a GIF quality. You can put it anywhere between 1 and 60 though. And then lastly, whether you want it to loop. So I'm going to put it true. So it's going to continuously loop at 20 FPS. Alright, so that's all the script that we really need. So I'm going to actually try it out now. But first, obviously, you will need to move this animation folder into your custom story so to have all the resources available. And you may also need to, if you haven't already, in the resources.cfg file in the Amnesia directory, there should be, let's see, a directory path at the end of the, if you might want to copy it and name it custom stories in this particular file. just so that the game is able to load assets from the custom storage directory. It may not be needed for everything. It's recommended to do anyway, but because some custom stories require it. I don't actually think this particular image animation does, so I'm going to remove it because obviously I tested this before and I just realized I didn't have it in there, so obviously works without it. But let's go back in here, and now that the animation is placed in there, I'm going to actually start the game and we'll see if it works. Custom story. There we have it. There is the animation, and you can see the animation is slightly tilted. It's not straight up. Slightly tilted. It's running at 20 FPS is, I believe, the FPS that this GIF was saved at originally, so that's why it looks the same. If you set the FPS up to like 60, it's going to run much faster, obviously, but if you have a lot more frames, you can run an animation at 60. Now, if you want to see the array preload, it looks like this. This is where the frames are situated when they're not being played as an animation. Mostly you're just going to be seeing one frame. Every time it loops, there'll be like a flicker, like you just saw there. But basically, this is just to be hidden out of the map. It's just to make this run a lot better, because as you can see, or maybe you can see in the top left corner, I have the FPS counter, which says 144. Basically, there's no, for me at least on my computer, noticeable lag from running this animation, where the old VideoTool had very noticeable lag. So with higher frame rates and higher resolution images, it would lag a lot more, but with this one it seems to work much better with teleporting the frames back and forth rather than activating and deactivating them. So it seems to be a much more optimized way of doing it. Now, I must also warn you that if you intend to have a looping animation at, for instance, 60 or 30 or something like that, then there is actually a pitfall in the engine itself, because if you run a timer, this is obviously a timer that loops every frame of the animation. So once the amount of timers called has surpassed about 65,000, the game will crash upon the next loading area, which is it's a thing of the engine. It's a limitation of the engine. Obviously, the engine isn't meant to be running that many timers, so if you do want to use animations, I would recommend limiting them somewhat, so that you don't run over 65,000 frames of animation within one map. That could cause some issues, but in general this is not really going to be a problem, especially if you run it at lower frame rates like 20. If you run it at 60 FPS, it's going to take about 15 minutes of continuous animation for it to actually reach that number. So I just figured I wanted to mention that. So anyways, that's really it for what this can do and how to use it and how to implement animations in Amnesia. So I will not waste your time anymore and say thank you for watching.